Like I said, we got a fun one for you today. My promise to you is that by the end of this session, right, you're going to have rock solid confidence in your pricing. You will be able to look your advertiser, your client directly in the eye, tell them your pricing, not flinch. Because I know some of us, we get into this, we're not naturally salespeople. Someone said, hey, you're good with people you sell. And sometimes that pricing thing we're unsure of. Sometimes we're solopreneurs, sometimes we've been in it for a while, but you will have rock solid confidence in your pricing. A little bit about myself, right? I'm the creator of a company called Broadstreet. Broadstreet is an ad manager, similar to Google Ad Manager, but I got one reason for doing what I do is to make sure that small businesses and those businesses working with those publishers out there are spending money with our publishers instead of Google, Meta, and whoever it might be, maybe TikTok down the line. As a goal, make sure that money is flowing toward our publishers. I'm the publisher of Red Bank Green, online only hyperlocal news outlet serving Red Bank, New Jersey since 2006. Formerly an engineer at Yahoo on their ad exchange and did some time at Mozilla and Automatic. The company makes WordPress. From Red Bank, New Jersey, dad to two boys, Kenny and Will, or as I like to say, Ken and Will. And the husband to Katie since 2011. Some of you may remember Katie as the person who sold you your Broadstreet account. Now she runs Broadstreet's social media, and boy, does it look tight. And with us today, we have the incredibly smart, caring, wonderful Charity Huff. Thank you for joining us today, Charity.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Hello, everyone. I am Charity Huff. I am the CEO of January Spring. We're a digital agency that works exclusively with publishers to help you take digital to market. I also am the new CEO, publisher, and owner of 5280 Magazine, which is Denver's beloved city magazine. I am so excited to be in the publisher seat, as well as continuing to carry my digital agency hat. I've got 28 years in digital media, ad tech, and publishing. I have grown up in this industry, and it's been so good to me. I am recently an empty nester. I have formally launched two kids into the world, and I'm so proud of both of them. So I get to hang out with my awesome husband, Brian, and a very spoiled mini dachshund, Polly. And that's how I get to spend my free time, which is pretty awesome too.
Fantastic. Thank you, Charity. All right, Charity. Now remember, you got full permission to interject and stop me in my tracks. You don't have a whistle, but
Yes,
I
sir.
do tend to get on a roll because we got some really great content to get through. And if I'm rolling, you just stop me and say, "Wait, Kenny, I got a second.
Cool.
Got something to say." All right. So some of you may remember how to sell digital advertising in 30 minutes. This is a webinar we did in March. In that webinar, we talked about how to sell, but a lot of people said, Kenny, what exactly do I sell and how do I price it? And how to sell and what to sell, they go together. And then we met this guy, right? Corey. So Corey was a jeweler that I had bumped into right before I did the webinar. And I said, Corey, would you let me try to sell you an ad on video? He didn't have to buy, but I recorded my sales process and we went through the lift method, right? And we walked Corey through listen, where we ask him questions. I had some of my favorite questions, understand where Corey is starting out, where he's trying to get to. And as we're having this conversation, we're imagining what we can do for Corey that's going to help him get to where he wants to go. So our system was listen, imagine, float, and transact. And Corey said something during that conversation that was so perfect because it spoke to what I was trying to do for Corey. And it's also going to set us up for what we're going to talk about today.
There's joy when you help others, you know, there's joy when you serve others, you know, and give someone a gift. You get more joy of seeing someone else happy by giving them something rather than getting. It exploded our business. Right. I love creating engagement rings, creating moments for couples. There's joy from it. There's the giving aspect, right?
Yeah. I loved that. And the reason is because I was there to see how I could do a great job for Corey, how I could serve Corey. I only could do that if I understood where he was first. Right? But then what is the vehicle that I'm going to use to take Corey to where he wants to go? That is the thing that I actually sell him. So the thing that I sold him, I showed this slide and Corey signed the contract and it isn't official till money's in the bank, right? So Corey paid and people said, $1,700, Kenny, what did you do for him? Because they heard that maybe I did some sponsored content, a single article, and you're like, you did that for 1,800, 1,700? So tell us what went into that package. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, Some red flags. What are some things that keep us from really diving into digital advertising? So, if you have said, I'm going to get into digital once I get my website traffic up a little bit, just type traffic into the chat. So if traffic is something that you feel like has been holding you back from getting the prices that you want, just type traffic into the chat. We got Sarah, we got Harrison.
You read the room right, Kenny.
Oh yeah, traffic into the chat. Have you heard
Scarlet billows start to spread.
Fantastic. All right. If you have set your pricing based on what you have gotten from maybe your friends at a conference, you go to a conference, you hop on a Broadstreet webinar and you say, Kenny sold that for $750. That is my new pricing. Right? Or you looked at your competitors and you said, what's their pricing? And I undercut that a little bit. Charity, you ever seen that before?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just type peer into the chat. If you have copied, or ditto. Someone wrote ditto. I like that too. Yeah, we do that too. That's what our pricing should be. Peers, okay, what are they doing? Because sometimes when we don't know what to do, we just look at what other people are doing and do what they do, right? That makes sense. Maybe they figured it out. Type some peers. How about this one? If you have ever heard print dollars for digital dimes. If you have ever heard this one, felt like I would focus on digital, right? But how am I supposed to incentivize my sales team to focus on digital when print makes all the money? If you feel like you...
Digital dimes is one of those that I've been
dimes.
hearing for 15 years. Like, why would we trade print dollars for digital dimes? Well, in all reality, if you truly look at your P&L and your profit, I would argue that digital is as profitable, if not more profitable, than your print offering. So you should really be looking at them in a more holistic manner and certainly not giving digital away.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to dive into that. So, speaking of diving in, let's catch that wave. How much money is in digital? Well, we do know that about 2 to 13% of an organization's marketing budget, right, or 2 to 13% of their income goes to their marketing budget. And then, Charity, you unearthed this one, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple of sources that have published this. eMarketer and Burrell have both shared that this year for 2025, when business is putting together their budgets, 80% of what they're planning to spend is going towards digital advertising. So if you're thinking like, okay, well, this is how much I'm getting in print, do the math and figure out that that may be just 20% of the total budget that is available with that particular business.
Oh, yeah. So what can we do to go ahead and get some of that digital marketing budget? Because it's out there and we want some, right? But wait a second. I know, and maybe Charity, you got the same experience. Every time I go to a sales meeting, it turns out that they are spending money somewhere else already. Sometimes through a local agency, sometimes directly. There's somebody out there eating up all of that digital marketing budget. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Do you have any idea who I'm talking about? If you have a guess, just put it in the chat. You got to guess who we're competing with.
Oh, yeah, they're figuring it out.
Chat. Oh, yeah, Google, Meta, Facebook. We already do our marketing on social media. We already have a company that runs all our Google ads. Yeah, we're all set. We run into that all of the time. We talk about how to get around some of that and how to sell, how to do a really good job at that. So Google clocked $100 billion in Q4 of 2024. Merry Christmas, Google. Right? That is, and they did about 90 in Q1. And, you know, normally these companies, they don't expect the number to go down. They expect it to keep going up, right?
Yep.
So $100 billion, they're doing just fine. But there's another 100 in this equation. I got a mission at Red Bank Green to have it stand for 100 years, right? When I first had the opportunity to take over Red Bank Green, which I've been involved with for about 15 years total, I didn't say yes right away. In fact, I kind of had a lot to do. There were other things that were on my plate, and I said, I don't have the time to really do this. But then I started to think, what if someone else took it over? What if some finance person, some local political hack took it over? What if we just had to pull the plug, right? Yeah. And I said, wow, what would happen to Red Bank if we didn't have Red Bank Green? And then I thought to myself, well, maybe I'll just take it over. But I can't just take it over for a year or two, or 3 years, or 5 years. Anything worth doing is worth doing for a long time, as long as it takes to do. I said Red Bank Green will stand for 100 years. And Google is not the only shark I'm going to be contending with over the course of that 100 years. There are going to be many more Googles, many more people that I have to compete with. And I need to sell and partner better than them, but I also need to put together better packages than they can.
Yep.
So this is where we're going to come to our system for pricing and packaging. In our How to Sell webinar, which if you didn't catch, Tommy or somebody, if you could drop it into the chat, we have it on YouTube. We went over our system for selling called LIFT, L-I-F-T. We saw it before. Listen, imagine, float, and transact. Right? And the whole purpose is is to talk to Corey and understand, where is he today? Where does he want his business to be? What's important for him? What's important for him personally? We talked about how you can really elevate to be an elite closer when you understand how what you're doing for them, advertising, can actually impact them personally. If you can help them get new clients, and that means that they might be able to hire someone and they're able to step out of the business, right? We want to lift somebody from where they are to where they want to go. It's a beautiful thing. Sales is not about selling an ad. It's about helping somebody else. And in the same way, pricing and packaging is about giving, but it is the vehicle, the thing that we're actually going to drive to take Corey from where he is to where he wants to go. And I just want to make the point that if you are an elite salesperson and you have an okay product, you can probably do all right. And if you are an okay salesperson, you have an elite product, you can probably do all right too. But if you are an elite salesperson and you have an elite product, you will be a shining example of how to run a media company. That's what I'm trying to do at Red Bank Green Charity. Is that what you're trying to do at 5280?
100%.
Hell yeah. So we're going to get into our system GIVE. Very simple for putting together your pricing and packaging. What does the G stand for? Goals. So the wrong basis for pricing, website traffic, right? I don't like to commoditize what it is that I'm selling. I don't like that everything I do just boils down to eyeballs or the number of page views, right? I can deliver so much more than what that number in Google Analytics says.
For sure, because it's a beautiful brand. You've got an engaged audience. It's way more than a traffic number.
Absolutely. How much your peers or competition charge, mainly because we have no idea what their goals were, or if they even set their pricing based on their own goals, or whether they copied it from someone else. Absolutely. How much you did last year. Charity, you brought that up. How do they do this?
Yeah, I think this is a terrible way to build a business. If you have a growth mindset, why would you be looking in the rear view mirror at last year when you should be looking down the road at where do I want to go and what am I trying to accomplish?
Right. And there's another one, what you think you can get, which a lot of times actually pushes us downward when we're not confident in digital. So we say, oh, you know what? Let's just make the digital ad. We're going to make the box ad $250 for the month. Right. That, people could probably afford that. And then we say, like, when people push back on budget, which they do for other reasons other than actual budget, what we think we can get, or we think the big guy, the hospital, the theater, that they can afford more. So we set our pricing higher. It's the wrong basis for pricing. And if we set our pricing like that, well, it kind of gets washed away eventually. It doesn't stand. It's like that sandcastle in the background, just washed away by the wind and the sea. The way you should set your pricing is based on what you need. Because the only thing that matters is what you need as a person, as an organization. It's very simple.
In order to grow and thrive and serve your community.
Absolutely. What you need is so simple, but it's actually so profound. The most important things are very simple like this. What do you need? And a lot of us don't even actually consider that. So you might think, what do I need? What you need, when you think through it, is clear. It's irrefutable. What you need to price that package as so it's something that this is how the business all comes together. It's not too much, because we know that excess of anything is probably not good. And it's not too little, because too little of anything is probably not good. It is the rock solid truth. When you are armed with the truth, you don't have to worry about anything. Things tend to go much easier when you got the truth. So you might think, what is it that I need actually? At the end of this year, what would you be happy with? And this applies to the little guys, it applies to the big guys too. For startups, those lions, those local independent online news, a lot of times it's like enough not to get a job. I want to do this. I want to make a living doing this. So what is that number at the end of the year? Maybe for round number sake, we're going to say 100K. So I don't have to go back and get a job, go crawling back, or go into PR. I don't want to go into PR, right? For an established company, it could be supporting the next stage of growth. At one point, we had to raise our pricing at Broadstreet because we needed to get health benefits for the team. It was just what we needed. And I communicated that openly and transparently. I said, this is just what we need to do to make sure that our company and everybody in it is taken care of.
Hey, Kenny, on those two fronts, Jacob put in the chat, well, what about what the market can bear? I always think of it, what is the pricing that is going to sustain and help me grow my business? And if I feel like that is not quite aligned with what the market can bear, then I'm not looking broadly enough at the market, because typically we as publishers service 5 to 15% of the market. So you've got a much deeper pool of advertisers than a lot of times we think we do.
So Jacob, you bring up a good question, and I would say that comes into view more often when we got a really, really small market, when we got a small community with maybe like 10 to 20 businesses, right?
Yeah.
In most cases where you got plenty of businesses, if you go back to Lift, the webinar,
Yep.
when you have really figured out what matters to the business and what matters to that person who's buying personally, the pricing becomes immaterial.
Agreed.
If you can help, I had a landscaper as a potential client, right? And I was talking to him and I said, what is it that he asked me what the rates were to advertise on Red Bank Green? Well, after talking to him, I found out that it wasn't really about advertising. He actually needed 20 more accounts so that he could elevate himself out of the business. Why did he want to elevate himself out of the business? He had a bad back. He had surgery 3 times. Right? He had to make sure that he got out of the field. I had a dispensary as a client, and I said, what is it? If everything went exactly as you had hoped, where would you end up? And she said, we'd be number 1 in Red Bank. And I said, boom, that's it. We want to be number 1 in Red Bank. It becomes my goal to be part of the formula to help her become number 1 in Red Bank.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
When you figure out what that is, it's not about selling an ad, and the price matters a whole lot less. So let's just say our goal is 250K, which if you're just starting out, you're a solopreneur, it may seem titanic. And if you're a big established player, like 250K, it's like one ad buy, right? Over the course of a couple of years, whatever it might be. Or maybe if you're starting out in print and you're not really doing anything in digital yet, maybe that's like a pretty good goal. Maybe only 100K is a goal just to constitute possibility. So how do we break this big goal down into smaller goals, right? And we're going to work our way backwards from our big goal into our packages and our pricing. So some of you, if you've been on Broadstreet webinars, you've seen this one before, our $20,000 a month plan, right? Pretty close to 250K. It's 240 for the year. So that's 10 $500 a month packages, 5 $1,000 a month packages, and 5 $2,000 a month packages. That's one way of doing it. So at least this way, we have a nice clear idea of how it's all supposed to come together. And it turns out—
I love this, because then it's just math at this point, right, Kenny?
Oh yeah. So yeah, and it becomes much more manageable. But
yeah,
it gets
like how many phone calls, how many outreaches, how many meetings do I need to earn an appointment that would garner me $2,000?
Totally.
We each know what our close rate is and what our market looks like. So this is just math.
Yep. So the great thing about this is that when you put it out like this, then you can be, if you want to be, transparent about how it all comes together. And I love to tell the story to my advertisers of how exactly they play in to making Red Bank Green possible for 100 years. So I just put this right in my media kit. This is our partnership model. We got community pillars. Together they have to, add up to about 100K. Local authorities, together they have to add up to about 100K. Local legends, same thing. I put it right in there, and I'm not the only one. because we got a friend and customer, Justin, over at Raincross Gazette, who pretty much wholesaled our media kit, which, by the way, is available on our free stuff page. We
And
got a
it's beautiful.
QR code, right? And you can just get our media kit. We did this last year right after Memorial Day with Eric Schanfelt and went over media kits, which is another great session, right? But Justin put that right in his media kit, and then just a few days later in a Broadstreet community group wrote, we just passed the 100K in ad sales mark this week. So Justin is that classic line, local independent online news publisher, near and dear to my heart, where I got my start. And congratulations to Justin, who made it to that point, and hopefully he's well beyond that. But once we break that up, let's break it up quarterly. Is this possible in 90 days? Could we do this in 90 days? Just 5 sales? A lot of us have more than just us on the sales team, but if it was just us, we could do it. Charity, can a sales team pull this off in 90 days?
For sure. For sure. Make
Hell
a plan.
yeah. What are we doing? We should be able to at least have 5 hot leads in a week on this. Okay, so what do they get? What do they get in these packages? Got 500, 1,000, 2,000. Innovation. So you might be thinking, innovation, what are we talking about here? What can you do differently and better? What can you do to stand out and really level up? Set the standard in your market. So 5 benefits of being different, right? 1 is that it gets attention. It gets attention in your media kit. It gets attention in your outbound emails. It excites your clients. It excites your team. I cannot stress how important it is to have something in your media kit that your sales team is excited about. Maybe it's something you crafted together, because nobody is better at selling something than the thing that they're already excited about. It also makes your pricing difficult to compare, because if you got competitors, you got a competitor down the street, you got Google, if you're just running 720 by 90 standard banner ads, IAB standards, the standards of the sharks, by the way, it makes you really easy to compare. And they say, why would I buy with you when I could buy with them? Your pricing's too high, right? And when you have something that's really innovative and it's special, it's in your media kit, it helps keep business with you. And I'll show you some of the things I got in my media kit that helps keep things with me. So this is just a slide from my media kit. This is a package I have called the Community Pillar. It's all about storytelling. It's kind of oriented toward the nonprofits, the healthcare, the hospitals. Identity, connection, originality, storytelling. When I say originality, I mean the things that make them different. It's called my icon strategy. You can steal that if you want to. R&D, everything, rob and duplicate it, please.
Yep.
All right? I don't want to be a shining example, or I'm not trying to be for no reason. I want, if you think it's a good idea, just take it, rob it. Just let me know, because it makes me happy when I hear that people are putting it to good use. All right. So this is my community pillar, big, huge unit at the top of the page, runs in our newsletter. Local authority. This one has been so popular recently. Basically, we got those real estate experts, those CPAs, those lawyers, those doctors. Right? How can I position them as an authority? And I should just make a note here. Notice how the packages are named Community Pillar, Local Authority. These packages are named in a way that allows them to identify, hey, that's me. This is for me. That is how I think about myself. Instead of bronze, silver, gold, right? So we could come up with all kinds of fun and creative names. So Local Authority, been very popular, and you can see I sell it for $7.50 a month, and we just had a customer on a trial last week who sold like 3 of them, and that's awesome. They sold them for $7.50 a month, so I wonder where they got their pricing from. But that's fantastic.
I think I've seen that on the Broadstreet media kit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So so they're available in Broadstreet too, but we've also had customers who kind of replicated some form of it. Otherwise, another one is Local Legends, right? So for businesses who want to establish themselves as that local legend, or they aspire to be. So we have that third package. That's basically our bronze local legend. So some other things that might go into packages. We got our amazing cube, the 3D rotating gallery thing that put us on the map. Social media spotlight. Think about ways that you might be able to take content that the advertiser has that's already performing well, right? You go to their Instagram page and you say, okay, 3 likes, 0 likes, 4 likes, 5 likes, 150 likes. That already resonated in some way. Let's get that out in front of a wider audience. The social media spotlight, let's just shine a light on the thing that was already doing well. Always makes complete sense to the client. We had one of those for an antique center for a while. And part of innovation is trying new things. So this is something that I just put out last week. Poll party, right? Just run a poll. And I'm like, could I get a sponsored poll? We actually ran a poll on Friday to solicit everyone's opinion on something called Broadwalk, which is a little pedestrian plaza. We actually got more people voting than some Red Bank elections have in terms of voter turnout.
I don't know how I feel about that, Kenny.
Why is that? Wait, about the turnout or about the poll?
About the voter turnout versus the poll party.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think the last election was more like 2,000, 2,500 or something like that. So, all right. You got to be cool with your package names, right? So the names should be fun and smart and make people say, hey, that's me. I need that. Start with 3 simple packages. Don't overcomplicate it. And I like to sell, and Charity, I'm curious what you do. I like to sell a 3-month minimum. I don't sell for packages for less than 3 months, except for some people when I throw them a bone. And I help
sometimes like if they've got a very specific event they're trying to promote, but then I still like to have the conversation around, okay, but this should be part of a larger advertising and marketing strategy, not just a one-off. We also at January Spring recommend a 3-month minimum, especially with digital. There's quite a bit of chatter around, the reporting and showing ROI. You need to make sure that there's enough exposure and frequency for an advertiser so that they do feel the lift and they are getting a return. But, we've had the most success this year at January Spring helping our publishers turn programs into evergreen, meaning that they just run forever and ever. And you set that expectation with the advertiser and say, we've got a good relationship. Let's get this program going. We can always revisit creative and those things, but let's just have it run and run because that's what's going to work best for your organization. I have another publisher out in Hilton Head. She calls it hassle-free pricing, right? And it's just hassle-free. We're going to set it and then we're going to just service it and manage it. So it's just a little bit of a mindset shift.
Right. I love that. Lori over Hilton Head. Perfect. Lori Lakeish. Another super smart, amazing publisher. So have something. I like to have something for very short-term campaigns. When people are like, can you help us promote an event? And I'm like, when's the event? And they're like, tonight. And they're like, what are you talking about? Or the next day. So I do actually keep a few things in my pocket when I'm feeling like throwing them a bone. The sticky note. This is one of my favorites where I'll do a top ribbon. Some of you actually on the webinar today signed up through a sticky note running on Broadstreet's website. That's what the sticky note looks like. All right. The V. And this one's super important. Maybe the most important. If you're going to forget most of give, you probably shouldn't. Right? The V is one of the most important things that you can take away from this. Oh. Hold on. I got to tell this story real quick. All right. I was sitting at my house over the weekend, right? And I had a few minutes of alone because my kids were out of the house. Katie was out of the house. And I was thinking to myself, Kenny, you read a lot of business books, don't you? I'm always listening to business books. And a lot of us are kind of like, in business, we're reading about the things that we're trying to learn on, right? And it occurred to me, I was like, ChatGPT has digested all of the business literature out there, right? Probably all the podcasts too. In fact, ChatGPT has seen all of this stuff. And it's got me thinking, I bet ChatGPT knows a lot about business. And I said, ChatGPT, could you summarize for me all of business philosophy? I'm looking for the ultimate Cliff Notes, by the way. Could you summarize all of business philosophy in just one sentence for me? And this is what it said. Create more value than you capture. And I almost fell over in the simplicity, the profundity. Create more value than you capture. Meaning we are going to give more than we get. That is what we're going to do in taking Corey to where he wants to be. We're going to give him much more than we ask for in return.
And that doesn't mean, I'll throw some digital in with your print. That's not what you mean.
Oh, totally. So I like to phrase this in another way. I say, add enough value that you would buy it. I refuse to sell anything that I would not buy myself. It is the golden rule of sales. I won't do it. So you have to put yourself in their shoes and say, would they be crazy not to buy this? Right? It doesn't mean that it has to be complex for you. It doesn't mean that it has to be time consuming. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't get the money that you deserve for it. But it should be, would they be crazy not to say yes to this? That's where I have to be. That's what gets me excited. The innovation, but also the value. So I'm going to give you something to keep you safe out there when it comes to value. Just really simple. You don't have anything to do with Broadstreet. This is something that everybody can do. SPF, how to provide value, really quick and easy. First is size. How big is the creative that you are running? It is so easy to differentiate just by size. You do not have to adhere to IAB standards. You don't have to run the 970 by 250s and the 720 by 90s. You can go super large if you want to. That was one way that one of our earliest publishers, SweetwaterNow.com, was able to command $2,500 a month for one of their units and rotate 7 advertisers through there. We used to talk about all the time. Size is a huge way that you can deliver value. Second is position. Where is the ad appearing on the page? Above the fold, hopefully, but sometimes they go a little bit below the fold, or below the story is another great place. Frequency, right? How often does it appear to who? Not just how many people are, just not how many impressions or page views you get. I like to talk about how many people will see the campaign and how often. Yep. So every month, Red Bank Green gets about 40,000 readers, right? In fact, every 2 weeks, about 40,000 people will see a campaign that's running on Red Bank Green. That's what I like to talk about. So a lot of us are worried about the fact that we only get 10,000 page views. But what's more compelling, that you get 10,000 page views or you have 5,000 people, whatever that number is, on your site? Let's humanize that. We do not have to use the language of the sharks.
We do not. And Kenny, that's some of the chatter in the chat box saying, well, traffic is important because it's ROI. I like how you're saying this, because if I have the ability to reach 5,000 people by running on Red Bank Green, then in my head, I can start to do that math as a business owner and say, okay, 5,000 people, I'm going to get that much exposure to those 5,000 people that now know my brand. And then I'll get so many clicks, because yes, people still think in terms of clicks, but that's just then I get that many people to my website. And I know once I get people to my website, I know that I can get them to buy a product, come into my store, make a reservation, whatever it is. And so that's the ROI that a business owner is doing on the other side. So it's not a traffic number. It's not a click percentage. It's butts in seats. That's what they want.
Right. And actually, Christine asks a good question. So what do your readers think of the big ad? So we actually had 2 questions I saw go by. What do our readers think of the sponsored content? What does that do for the trust and credibility? And what do our readers think about the big ad? I find that when it is an advertiser that they know is local, that's totally fine. And by the way, it's not like an ad exchange ad that takes like 10 seconds to load on the page. It's nice and quick, and it's relevant and local to them. Right? So that's the way I think about it. And I have never, in all of my time running Red Bank Green, ever had someone complain about the YMCA ad at the top of the screen. Right? In terms of the sponsored content, the trust and the credibility, they're labeled. They're labeled as local authority or local legend, a Red Bank Green partner. And again, they're local. So it's not like it's not some national advertiser coming in.
Right.
It's a local person. So, all right, a little bonus here. So we got SPF, size, position, frequency. A little bonus, imagery. Charity, we were talking about this. Have you ever been on Zillow looking at real estate that you're never going to buy?
Yes, and I had to admit to you this week that I do love house porn. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
100%. I go there and I set like the 5 acres out in Pennsylvania or wherever, somewhere that's like kind of drivable, and look at the houses. Imagery just does such a great job telling the story. And how many advertisers do this well for? I usually have a list that I run through. Charity, you had a better list. I think like country clubs. I think about kitchen contractors. I think about, who do you think of?
Well, and I even think like boutiques and retailers and restaurants, like food porn is up there with house porn, right? We all
Oh,
love looking at beautiful
restaurants,
dishes.
duh. Some of my
Yes.
easiest sales at Red Bank Green was when a bagel shop owner said, people, the name of the place is Bagel Station, said, people don't think of us for lunch. We do incredible wraps and salads. And I said, oh,
Yeah.
really? Let's just take pictures of those and get them in front of. He was like,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, let's do that. So we're going to talk about that in a second. Imagery, by the way, size, position, frequency, imagery, these are all things that are going to drive up the click-through rate. So you're not just getting a sad little
And
0.1%
drive up
click-through rate.
value to your point.
Oh, totally. Because at the end of that campaign, we want to show the value in the beginning of the campaign, but we also want every advertiser, only so many advertisers in the world, we want every single one to be long-term happy customers. And the only way we do that is by giving them some great performance.
Yep.
So let's talk about whale hunting, because I know some people came onto this webinar wanting to learn about hunting whales, right? These are your bigger organizations. These are your hospitals, your banks, your healthcare, like YMCA, for example, in
Your
my case.
theaters. Yep. All the big guys.
Theaters, all the big ones, right? I will tell you this, partnership over product. At some point, as that price point raises, they're not buying just stuff from you anymore. It's not just about crap in the line items that they're buying for you. They are a lot of times looking for your personal expertise and guidance. Just because they have a CMO, just because they have a VP of marketing, does not mean that person knows everything about marketing and isn't completely inundated with a to-do list that they can't seem to get through.
Right.
Right? A lot of times they want to delegate something to somebody that they trust, and they're willing to depart with significant budget to do that. And they want the assurance that you're going to help them get to where they want to go. Does this kind of coalesce with your experience, Charity?
Yeah. The way we think of it is it's outcome oriented, not product oriented.
Totally. So this is what it can look like. It can just be positioning and storytelling in the community. I had one nonprofit tell me that they just want me to tell the story about their scholarship programs and some of the other great work that they do within the community. It might mean helping them offload needs like SEO. That's something that I'm doing right now. Some Google
Yep.
display and search. That's actually something that I'm working with Charity on for a proposal that I'll show you guys in a few. Doing some of their meta advertising, some of their OTT. I don't do that, but basically
January
commercials.
Spring does all of these things for our publishers to,
Totally. So
yep.
actually, and that's one usually when it's something that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, like the Google display and search, that's where you want to surround yourself with people that are going to help you get that done. So one of the things that I do is like I like to after I do sponsored content, I like to try and amplify that. And I'm going to show you my story amplification package, but that just means promoting it in the broader open internet. So
Right.
like when someone's on ESPN.com, if they're my reader, I still want to be able to promote Colony House or Corey, the jeweler. I still want them to see Red Bank Green ads no matter where they are on the internet. That's where Charity, we're talking about retargeting, which is what January Spring is all about.
Yeah. So just think of it as the rest of the internet, right? Businesses advertise with us and with you guys because they want to reach your audience. They want to be affiliated with your brand. They want a connection to the community and they want to reach your engaged readers. That's why they take your meetings and that's why they advertise with you. You are one of the top local options in that market. So help your advertisers reach your readers everywhere else they go on the web. It's called retargeting, right? So as I move around the web, I am seeing ads that are relevant to me. And if you are the media company that's helping a business do that, better for you, right? That's part of your differentiation. And that's something that is differentiating you from them, like just going and buying Google ads or Meta ads. You're like, yeah, but what if you can follow my people on Google and Meta, right? So you also get more to sell, and you're going to show us what you're doing with your sponsored content. But we always wrap retargeting and programmatic ads around sponsored content because you're reaching those same readers and people that look like your readers everywhere they go on the web.
Absolutely. So we're going to get to ease. Now, the last part of give, it's got to be simple, right? No matter what we do. So I want you to basically think through once you come up with your goals and you work backward into your little buckets and you work backward into, okay, what are we going to do that's different and better? How are we going to deliver more value? Is this easy for you or your team and the client to understand? So is this something you can explain? Because it has to be understandable. It has to be something that you can explain to an intern. Is it low effort and high impact? Because just because it's low effort for you doesn't mean that it can't be high impact for them. There are some things that are very high effort and they're also very high impact. There are things that are high effort for you and kind of low impact for them. So can we find something that is low effort and high impact? That's why I like just resurfacing their social media posts that already did well. Going over their YouTube page to see videos that they produced, already had someone to produce.
Yeah.
But it's got 30 views on YouTube. I think that the hospital wanted more than 30 people looking at that video.
Exactly.
I can help that get to a wider audience. So, and importantly, can I do this in a single page Google Doc, Shark Doc, and Loom video for an intern to follow? So this is an actual screenshot of my Google Drive for Red Bank Green. And you can see the one that's highlighted is how to make local authority and local legend articles with ChatGPT. Now I know you're like, ChatGPT. There's actually a great way that we go about it that, Tommy, if you can drop the Las Vegas link, I did how to sell digital advertising with AI. I talk about exactly how we deliver top-notch sponsor content, and we do it with the help of ChatGPT. But it's not just a random, hey, ChatGPT, write this article. So it's got to be something that you can make a short Loom video and document so that even an intern can execute it. Here's a little preview of what it looked like when I was putting together sponsor content for Corey at Casal Jewelers. I recorded the conversation. I got the transcript. I uploaded it, in this case, not into ChatGPT, but Notebook LM. And it parsed it and it figured out what's Corey's core focus. What are the 3 most important things that we could do for Corey? How great would it be to take all of this and just drop it in our CRM, HubSpot? So other people on the team were on the same page when they were fulfilling it. Right? Imagine that. Do you ever have a situation where the person who sold the campaign is on a completely different page than when someone is fulfilling it and making it happen? So anyway, we put together this story. This went live last week, right? And this was about a local couple who, one of them I actually know. And we put that together. What did Corey think? What did Corey think? He said, this is amazing. I'm blown away. Because when I use AI, it is more simple, but at the same time, I don't do it to save myself time. I do it to deliver a better product easier than I could have done myself. That's the way we should think about AI, because I know a lot of us are thinking, is AI coming for me? I'm going to use it to make sure I deliver exceptional service and product. So just to recap, we're not done yet because you're going to see some stuff. We got our goals. We got our innovation, value, and ease. This is the give system for pricing and packaging. If you follow this, you will come to packages that are priced what you need them to be and that you are excited about. The client is excited to accept and they are easy to put together. So I was talking to a print publisher just a few weeks ago and he said, I just feel like digital is not as valuable as print. Print makes all the money. And I said, well, what's your circulation in print? And he said about 20,000. I said, okay, cool. I was like, when you sell a full page ad, how many people do you think see that ad? And he said, some like brow furrowing. And he's like, maybe 5,000, which I think maybe it's high, maybe it's low. So 5,000. Okay, cool. Well, you were telling me just a second ago that you weren't really confident in the 20,000 visits that came to your website. How many people visit your website again? I'm talking about uniques. You said about, 20,000. Okay, so I'm like 20,000 people come to your website and they are seeing the ad that's running. 20,000 people that are seeing the ad, but you just told me that 5,000 people are seeing the ad in print, about 25% of your print audience. I said, do you think it's possible? Just a question. Do you think it's possible that digital is just as valuable as print? He said, I do. Yeah, I can see how now it might be possible. And I said, do you actually think it's possible that digital could be, I'm not saying it is, do you think it could be more valuable than print? He's like, yeah. So a lot of times our pricing, it's actually limited by our perception. A lot of times we are the person holding ourselves back. What we think, our beliefs, holding ourselves back. So I was talking to a print publisher. I was in Australia. I was in Melbourne. Met this guy, Troy, who hadn't really sold anything significant in digital. I was giving a presentation. I was talking about local authority. Let's hear from Troy.
While you were speaking, I literally built the local authority, put all the information in for a client, sent it to the client and said, hey, I'm running this for free for you for 2 days. If you want to buy it, it's yours now. So we pitched it at a monthly price, $1,200 a month, gave them industry exclusivity as well. And he took it and sold it.
Is this the first time that you've essentially captured real money for digital?
First time any serious money.
So that was Troy. So let's talk about our packages. What are we going to put together? I'm going to show my package, and I'm going to talk about something that I recently proposed to a client. So we got Local Legend. That's what Corey bought. That was about $600 a month. This is businesses with a story to tell, or that legendary status in the community, or aspired to have that legendary status. Right? And I will package it with sponsored content. This is another one, the story amplifier. Once we already have great content on the site, we already did it. After that 3 months is over, why not amplify it to a wider audience? That's where charity came in. It's like, how do I help Corey tell that story beyond? How do I do that for an apartment complex, which also love the sponsored content we put together for them? So the story amplifier, this is actually what it looked like for Colony House. So Colony House, Red Bank's resplendent Riverside revival. Great piece of content. If you Google it, if you Google Colony House Red Bank, you'll find it. Got fantastic traction in the reports. And I actually got several emails, effusive praise for how it came out. They just loved it. And then they said, how can we get this to a wider audience? They basically said it for me. So I proposed our story amplification playbook. I said, Eli, these are going to be our 3 options here. First, I give them my little shtick about how we're the best to work with, and we honestly are. 2 is that we got 3 plays. We got 1 channel, which we're going to blast you out on social media and promote you on our social media via some paid campaigns. 2 is that we're going to do that, and then we're going to do some geo-targeted programmatic display advertising, which is basically just people seeing Colony House ads when they're not on Red Bank Green. They'll see them elsewhere. Exactly. Do some keyword targeting. And Charity, that's where I actually took, Charity, the slides that you sent over me. We just redesigned them and put them in here.
Right? Like you said, just repurpose.
Totally. And then we got our sleeping play here where we do a little search engine marketing. So when people search for apartments in Red Bank, they're at the top of their Google listings. So I gave him those 3 plays, and we're going to see what he says, because he's going to let us know probably by Friday or the beginning of next week. So I was just making stuff up. How about the hidden gem? One of my favorite sales questions, my favorite question to ask in a meeting is, what are some things that people are surprised to learn the first time they come here? And every business owner has them. They say, people don't know how big it is in here. They think we're this hole in the wall on the outside, and it's gigantic. We have all this seating. People don't know that we do salads and wraps for lunch. People don't know that we have a kids menu. These are all things that I've heard. So I said, why wouldn't we make a package called the Hidden Gem for businesses fighting those false assumptions, those preconceptions? How easy would that be? If you do that digging, you'll find every business owner has them. So a little temperature check, right? When you put together, oh, by the way, I didn't really go through this slide, but package name, who it's for, positioning, what's included, the price, and your little checklist, just a nice little guide that you can use. And Tommy, did you drop that link into the chat? Sweet. Thumbs up. So a little temperature check on your pricing. So if you're like, all right, cool, I did exactly what I need. It's $1 million. I need a sanity check. All right. So here is the low end, which I would not I don't want you to take these prices, but if you need a sanity check, this is the lowest of the low that we see, and then this is pretty much the highest of the high that we see for kind of those small and mid-sized publishers. And print and digital.
Yeah, so here's how we've helped many of our publishers on the January spring side put together some packages. We always just say print and digital together because the two help lift the exposure. So what is your run rate for your newspaper? This example is a 4X rate, and then different sizes, again, back to size being one of those things in the SPF. And then the e-edition, right? So that they understand that they're getting some digital that way. And then audience extension. This is just where you retarget and follow those people everywhere they go around the web. And so then you can have a dominant or a presence, right? Like whatever's the best kind of fit for an advertiser. And I've got another one for a bigger market on the next page as well. So again, print and digital together. So maybe it's a 12-time rate for your magazine, plus exposure on your magazine's website, plus an extension where you're following those people around via programmatic ads. And we always just say, like, let's choose our own adventure. From what you've told me, it feels like you're going to want to have a full page ad exposure in our print, plus 40,000 impressions a month on our magazine website, and an additional 100,000 impressions that follow those folks around everywhere they go on the web. So you don't have to have it be just a straight column, right? You can kind of use this as a way to get all of your programs in front of somebody and then talk through with them what their needs are.
Cool. So, yeah, Charity, you're the master of going for the gold on
Oh
this.
yeah. Yeah, my favorite thing to do on a four-legged call is to start with that dominant and talk from there. And then as I'm listening to the advertiser, make my argument for why I think that's the right exposure for them and have them almost argue with me or debate with me why they would go down in their exposure. So don't operate off of your wallet, operate off of what you know is the value of your program and what they're going to get from it.
Cool. So we got about 5 minutes left, and what I want to do is I want to do a little bit of Q&A. But first, as they say, it's not what's taught, it's what's caught. And what is your takeaway? One thing that you took away from this webinar, this session, that you're like, I did not think of it that way. One thing. So what are your takeaways? Charity, did you have a takeaway?
Yeah, my big takeaway is that we are in this mindset of traffic and what my peers are pricing for something versus saying, what is the value? And if I were to help an advertiser increase their business by 20 people a week, what's the value to them? And really be thinking about pricing in that way as opposed to just what everybody else in the market is doing.
Cool. Yeah, and so you can drop it in the chat, your takeaways, because one of the things about takeaways, it may be something that maybe reminds somebody else. So it's not just about you, it's also about other people who are listening.
Yeah.
You drop your takeaways into the chat. Naming of ad packages, that's a really simple one. Some of the best stuffs
really
are so
good.
simple. 3 local partnerships, give.
Yep.
Okay, one last thing before everyone drops, right? I got one request. If you really enjoyed the webinar today, if you thought it was something that was useful to you, I want you to take that and I want you to tell somebody else about it, because not everybody else can make this. Sometimes it's a great session, but like if somebody wasn't sitting in on it, that's just something that they didn't know existed. So I want you to take them and give it to someone else, because it can help take them from where they are to where they want to be. And I hope that's something that I did for you guys today. I hope that you hopped on this webinar and it was what you hoped it would be, and you leave just a little bit better than you were than you came on. Second thing, I don't normally do a webinar in August, but I wrote an ebook, a white paper last year in 2018 called 10 Advantages. You may have seen ads about it on LinkedIn, on YouTube. If you think that maybe I should do a webinar with 10 advantages and get some of the original people I quoted, just drop 10 into the chat if you would like me to do a 10 Advantages webinar. I don't normally do a webinar in August, but I'm thinking about it.
Looks like you got some takers.
10 advantages. All right, Stuart. Oh, we got lots of people. Hey, I got one more question. I was thinking about maybe doing an on-site, an actual in-person event in Red Bank, New Jersey, for people who also want their business, their organization to stand for 100 years. If you would actually entertain the idea of coming to Red Bank, we might limit it to 100 people. Just type 100 into the chat. I'm curious about that one because I was scheming on it. We got lots of 100s. Amazing. All right. That's making me think that it's got to happen. What do you think, Tommy?
Oh, yeah.
Long live magazine media. Long live you B2B publishers. I know a lot of us joined today. Long live you radio broadcasters. Near and dear to me. Long live local news.
Long live local news. Love it.
We got it. We got it. All right. So in the summer, I know people say people don't buy in the summer. Of course they do. Go out and get them. What I want you to do, I want you to blow those sharks out of the water. Blow them out of the water. And everyone have a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. Thank you so much for joining. Everyone take care.